Hello, everyone. Welcome to Decked. My name is Tyler. With me is my friend Ray.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Ray?
Doing well.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's been a while.
For those of you who haven't seen Decked before, we like to play tabletop games of different kinds, mainly card games, mainly Call of Cthulhu, the card game so far. And we'll record them on camera and then come back and comment about them after the fact. We're doing something a little bit different today. This is a draft event that was held at Black Moon Games in Lebanon, New Hampshire a little while back. Right now, what you're seeing is an over-the-shoulder view of Ray as he is choosing cards to put into his Call of Cthulhu deck.
You're actually seeing a lot of my hands.
Seeing a lot of hand talking from Ray.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of this episode is a lot of hand talking, a lot of gesturing, Ray showing off what he's chosen, not always within view of the camera.
Tried.
You did try, and I think you did pretty good for not having any sort of feedback monitor. But over the course of this, 6 rounds of draft, I believe.
5 rounds.
5 rounds.
Oh, no.
Over 5 rounds, Ray is going to be choosing cards to put into his deck. Every round he'll start off with a fresh stack of 10 cards. He'll choose one. He'll pass it, sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, alternating. And then he will also choose a card from each successive pack that he has passed from either side. There were 6 participants in this draft, which was an all-time high at Black Moon for a Call of Cthulhu event. Pretty proud of that.
Yes.
And as you can see on the left there, that's Rod handing off his pack already, because Rod is apparently a fast decider in draft, but not in play.
I'm also, coincidentally enough, coming up to the camera. So
Right.
I chose to go with Padma here instead of the Guardian Pillar. Guardian Pillar is a restricted card in normal play, but when you're in draft, you can have as many restricted cards as you want. I thought about going with it, which probably would have been a smart choice because it's a card and it wouldn't action right off the bat, but I saw a strong serpent character, and I do know that serpents are relatively heavy in draft packs, so I decided to draft there. It was against my better judgment, because sitting 2 feet away from passing to me is a gentleman who knew was going to be drafting action,
Mm-hmm.
what he's most comfortable playing, so this being his first draft, you tend to go with what you're comfortable with for Cthulhu. So I already knew I was drafting against the
Mm-hmm. So when you're drafting, you're not just considering what you're being handed, but you're also thinking about who's around the table.
Of course. And since I already started with a bit of a serpent theme, looking at my cards here, the most logical choice is probably going to be Noggin, but I'm going to go through everything.
Mm-hmm. Anything else jumping out at you that you might have wanted to grab?
Salvatore Neri did me some good work in a draft,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have thrown me into a second faction pretty quick. Labella was another good one if I decided to go Syndicate, which, as we'll see as time goes on, was probably a good choice that I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
But I decided to stick one faction here before and not split into a second. And I stuck with my serpent theme, which unfortunately didn't get as much legwork as I would have hoped. And now we're waiting for the other people to pass around the table here. And I'm picking up my next pack. Now, at this point in time, as you can see, there are no Cthulhu cards in this pack. So I'm either going to have to draft something neutral or start drafting to a second faction. So right now what I'm looking for is maybe a character or something cheap or something that's going to help support. And I went with the Terrors in the Dark because in a draft format, you're limited to the amount of copies of a card you have. So a single Terrors can actually burn through some key cards for people. Also, at the time, one of the players had been commenting on the fact that there were no cards that he could build a mill deck with.
One of the players? Was that a particular player?
That was Carlo that was talking about that, yes.
Carlo the Mill player is what I'm hearing.
Yes, Carlo the Mill player. Him of Project Mill fame.
Yes, he has a wheelhouse. I've always wondered if that wheelhouse extends to other games. Does he mill in Netrunner too?
I don't know. I've never played him in Netrunner.
Yeah, Netrunner is harder to mill too. It's not as mill friendly.
Yeah, but if there's somebody that could find a mill, it would be definitely him.
Oh, he's just waiting for the day.
Yeah.
So what did you pull out of that round?
So that one was Terrors in the Dark.
Okay. Terrors of the Dark, the milling effect.
Yep. And now we're looking again, and let's see what we got.
Unknown Kadith. Everyone chooses Unknown Kadith.
Yes, everyone chooses Unknown Kadith. So again, there's no Cthulhu in this pack, which is evident, which is now showing the fact that somebody else is drafting Cthulhu.
Was this Mark's starting pack?
No, this is pack 4, so this
okay.
would have been Toby's starting pack.
Okay. Toby gave up a demented phrenologist. Although we don't know what Toby was thinking either at that time.
Yes, at that time. I mean, we're still very early on.
Mm-hmm.
What direction you're going is different. And if I recall correctly, I'm going to grab the Key Seeker here.
Mm-hmm. This is your first purple?
It is my first purple.
Unfortunately, we won't get to see what I chose, but I did wind up pulling a lot of 2-cost purple sorcerers.
And I decided to go with that. It was a character, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
There was very few characters in that pack left, and characters are what win you drafts.
Characters win drafts. I learned that in my first draft.
Yeah.
Where I let things like Rabbit's Foot be my first pull.
Yeah, that's a rough first pull.
That was my very first pull ever, actually.
Oh, wow.
The first round was like, Rabbit's Foot, yeah, let's do that. I heard that's good.
Great card, yeah.
Rabbit's Foot keys off revealing character cards off to the top of the deck, if I recall.
I believe so, yes.
So, doubly not useful when you're not pulling characters.
All right, now I've got a Cthulhu card in this deck. But I'm looking at a Shub-Niggurath card right now, the Book of Iode.
Always a solid choice.
Yes. And I could go. It's looking very much like I'm going to go. There's no characters left in this pack. So I'm going to have to choose a support card of some sort. So I've got the attachment in Rami, which might be strong, but I go with the Book of Iode instead because it's a better card.
Mm-hmm. Pulling more cards out of your deck.
Exactly. And in a format where you have a limited number of cards, like I mentioned earlier, it's a good choice to make because you can get to those bomb cards, those really key strong cards that you need to win the game faster.
Mm-hmm. That was my thinking as well. I was pulling a lot of Miskatonic cards. So, and that was always like, yes, I would like to look at more cards in my deck.
Right. All right, now I've already gone with a little bit of Yogg-Sothoth, but I think I drew a stronger Shub-Niggurath card. So I'm going to be putting Yogg-Sothoth on the back burner. I'm probably not going to draft any purple. I'm going with Midnight Rendezvous. As you can see, I'm giving it a thumbs up.
You got the seal of approval.
I got the seal of approval, right. The Midnight Rendezvous makes it night, and then it attaches to a story card, and it keeps investigation struggles from happening there.
Mm-hmm.
So with a deck where I'm definitely going with Ancient One factions, I'm not going to have a lot of investigation. So this was a good way to hopefully stop any Miskatonic or Syndicate decks or even agency decks out there that were relying heavy on quick wins.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Lodge Barkeep again.
Some cards just come around again and again in the draft set.
Yes, they do. And I'm going to grab an Into the Woods here. Conspiracies, there are some cards that definitely play off conspiracies. And I know from a previous draft that occasionally there's a Savio that goes around. So I figured since I was getting red anyways, Savio wouldn't be a bad... If I got Savio, then having a conspiracy in my back pocket wouldn't be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although, as you can see from this pack, conspiracies get passed a lot towards the end.
Conspiracies tend to be the last choice, and it's just sort of, oh, I guess I need this in my deck. It'll be a resource match.
Right. Now, I could have gone with the Dole Tunnel there, but instead I went with Before the Fast. I thought, why not? Who knows? Maybe we can have some fun making lots of domains for people.
Mm-hmm. And this is just, what's the lesser of two evils?
Exactly. This is... all right. Well, if I get forced into playing one of these two factions, I'd rather give a 2-cost agency card than a 5-cost Silver Twilight card. And
but don't characters win drafts?
Characters do win drafts. But if I'm being forced to pick it that late, that's not probably the best character in the world. And then I ended up with a Secret Handshake as my last card.
Mm-hmm.
So there I am going through my 10 cards again. You're allowed to go through what you've already drafted between each round.
Just remind yourself what your faction ratio is so far.
Exactly. So I'll set those aside in a separate pile.
Mm-hmm.
A second here, I'll be counting out the next 10 cards off the top.
So roughly, what would you say your ratios are at the moment in terms of factions you're actually going to choose to work with?
At the moment, it's probably 75% Cthulhu, 25% Shub-Niggurath. If that, it might even actually be like 80-20 or 90-10
mm-hmm.
off that first pack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're only talking 10 cards. It's hard to
Yeah, it's early. It's very early.
Yeah. And there's some mixed faction going in there because I grabbed the Yogg-Sagoth card. I ended up with a couple neutral cards. Ended up with a Silver Twilight card at the very end.
Mm-hmm. And at this point in the draft, are you thinking yet about what other people are pulling, or is this entirely based on what you want?
I usually wait till. I mean, I've thought of a little bit about what Rod, because he was passing to me this past turn, what he was pulling.
Mm-hmm.
This time, I'll be thinking more about what you're passing me because you're sitting on my right.
Right. So these are your intelligence gathering rounds.
Right. The first couple rounds are intelligence gathering rounds, and everybody's feeling their way through it. By the end of the second round, you should know what the people near you are drafting for the most part.
I will admit I had no idea what anybody was drafting, except I was not seeing any syndicate cards.
Well, and there was a good reason you weren't seeing any syndicate cards.
Absolutely. I just was not making the connection at the time.
It was the same reason I wasn't seeing any syndicate cards. Now, there's some good cards in this pack, but the best card by far,
A clear winner.
the clear winner, is the Claret Knight that I have just pulled from the back and have emphatically put down onto the table.
Characters win drafts. Claret Knight wins games.
That's right. And that's exactly it.
Because as longtime viewers will know, the Claret Knight is immune to so many, many things.
Yes. And the things that the Claret Knight is immune to is just so foggy that you can pretty much make him immune to anything.
Yeah, if you can make a strong case to the judge, you're going to be good.
Exactly. And if you are the judge, well, I mean.
Right, because unfortunately, when it comes to Call of Cthulhu, the judge is usually playing.
Yes. Well, especially in our case. I mean, we kind of judge by committee.
Yeah.
We won't judge our own rulings in our own games.
And we don't print out the FAQ.
This is very true.
We've never printed out the FAQ. It's just, I think that's what it says.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it says. All right. So here we have the second pack. The second pass. And I'm going to... There is one Cthulhu character in here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad card.
No, solid. 2-drop.
Yep. 2-drop, some terror icons.
How much skill? 2?
3.
3. Nice. I like that.
Yeah, 2-drop, 3 skill.
That's rare in Cthulhu.
Yes.
So you're continuing on the Cthulhu path.
Yep, I'm continuing on the Cthulhu path, and I'm expecting more Cthulhu on this run around, provided nobody else was drafting, because I knew the other person that was drafting was only one pack away from me when we were passing the other direction. In this direction, there were 3 people between me and him. So.
Mm-hmm. And you hadn't seen any evidence yet that those people were pulling green cards.
There would be no evidence for me to pull because of the direction of the pass, but I was hoping that nobody else was.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, if it's getting sucked out of 2 directions pretty fast, then...
That's what I observed with Syndicate after a while.
Yeah.
And
there's just nothing for you to pull. You're like, okay, all the good cards are gone.
Yeah.
Somebody else is playing this.
And really, if I'd been thinking about who is at the table, even that would make sense because there were 2 very heavy Syndicate players on either side of me.
Yes.
So that pull initially probably was not a smart one.
Yeah, sometimes it is all about knowing who you're sitting next to. I got some choices here. I haven't really gone enough shub to take the Priestess. The Baleful Reveler probably would have been a very good choice, but I was pretty sure I'm going to be sticking with my Serpent theme. Yeah, there's Nog in there. I was really pushing towards that Serpent theme.
Mm-hmm.
I remember kicking myself in the last draft we did because there was just nobody was drafting Cthulhu and there was serpents going around everywhere.
It's true. I am surprised they decided to make that a major theme in the set. I like it. I like the serpents.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that they chose to do that because most people give the serpents a lot of short shrift.
Well, I think that's one of the good things about setting up a draft strategy like this is those things that aren't strong enough to be tournament quality for decks can work in a draft scenario.
Mm-hmm. Whereas others like the Migo, the draft just does not suit them.
Right. Draft definitely does not suit them because everybody's got Migo and they all affect each other. The biggest weakness of a Migo deck is going up against another Migo deck.
Mm-hmm. So what are you thinking here? I see an Into the Woods.
Yep. Here... Oh.
It's the Serenarian Deep one. Are you going to grab that?
The Serenarian Deep one, but then I saw the Parallel Universe, and, well, I know Syndicate's at the very least being played.
Yep.
because there are syndicate cards that are going around, and I'm pretty sure at this point in time I'm passing to somebody who's playing syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
And Rod did end up playing syndicate.
Yep.
And I was pretty sure I was passing to him, and I could not let a parallel universe go to a syndicate player.
It's a very strong card because it's like a mini David Pan where it attaches to a story and causes that story's struggles to be resolved on skill instead of icons.
Exactly. And if you have David Pan and a parallel universe, and you throw the parallel universe on one story and David Pan on another, you're just...
It gets ugly fast.
It does. It gets ugly very fast. Especially, I mean, as you can see, I mean, you look at the skill of the characters in this pack right here that I've currently got, and you've got 2, 0, 1, 1, and I don't know what the inmate's skill is.
It's low, typically.
Yeah.
But you go
I'm
for
going
hand
to
of
take the
Affordum.
hand here because the hand can be very devastating in the hands of a syndicate deck.
Mm-hmm. So that was more denial on your part.
That was more denial on my part. Also, if I decided I wanted to eventually go, Shub was kind of drying up a little bit. I wasn't seeing a lot of it. So if I decided I wanted to go Yogg-Sothoth, not a bad card to have.
Mm-hmm. And I see you're giving some thought to the green card, but it's really deep one specific.
It is very deep one specific. And this is where I've noticed that I'm seeing a lot of Silver Twilight come through.
That's what I like about this set is Silver Twilight, I think it's overly proportional representation to their utility.
Right. And because I'm seeing so much Silver Twilight, to me, that's an indication that nobody at the table is really drafting hard on Silver Twilight.
Right. I hadn't started pulling it. I was just passing it along because I was trying to stick to 2 factions.
Right. So I grabbed the Ritual of the Inferno, which does destroy support location cards. There's not a ton of support locations in this draft set, but any kind of support destruction is good support destruction in a situation where you have very limited. Just like any character destruction is strong.
That is an unfortunate weakness of Silver Twilight in general. That I think that's one of their few support destruction cards, and it's so limited.
Yeah.
Because locations, there's a couple good ones, but you can't count on that being always useful.
And as you start getting down towards the end here, you just start grabbing stuff at a much faster pace. Although I changed my mind here, obviously. I was looking at 3 Steadfast Silver Twilight. Even if I started drafting Silver Twilight, that's a hefty Steadfast to be dealing with.
Right.
So I went with the Setting Sun. I'm going to go with the Setting Sun instead here in a second. Just because it makes it night, and I have cards that want it to be night. And why I passed the Baleful Reveler again, I have no idea.
What did you choose over it?
Priestess.
What? Discounting things, man?
Yeah, I wasn't drafting enough Shub Niggurath that the Priestess should have made a difference.
Right. Because it's Shub characters.
Right, it's Shub characters. Yeah. I should have gone with the Baleful Reveler. It would have been better. The 1 combat icon.
Mm-hmm. Solid 1 drop, and then he gets better.
Yep. And the Priestess doesn't have any icons, which is a reason I didn't take the Initiate earlier. Or was there an Initiate earlier I didn't take? Yeah, there was an Initiate that was going around, and I passed on it because it doesn't have any icons.
Yeah. And unless you have something to feed it to, why bother?
Exactly.
And even then, in a draft format, it may not reliably happen.
That's a huge thing.
You're really sort of drafting for more basic utility as opposed to, well, this thing and this thing and this third card.
Yeah, you can't, combos just don't, you can't rely on them in this kind of a format, even though your deck is smaller than usual once you build it. So you have more opportunity to hit those cards. You can't rely on, normally you would have 3 copies of each of those cards, and now you're looking at 1 copy of each of those cards.
3 copies of each of those cards and at least 2 things to tutor for them.
Exactly.
Not that tutoring's high in Cthulhu anyways.
So now I've been passed from the left and the right, and I'm starting to get a good idea of what people are playing in direct vicinity to me. Now, there is no Cthulhu card that is jumping out at me in this deck in this particular pack, because there is no Cthulhu card. There's 1 Dole Tunnel, which I could grab, but I've already got some support destruction, so I'm going to grab Victoria, because I don't want anybody else to have Victoria. And also because everybody knows my love affair with Astor.
Right. Those are both valid reasons.
Right.
Although I feel like Hester did not get fair representation in this draft. I mean, there were a lot of cards going around. He just didn't show up to play, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it really didn't. And unfortunately, it's partly because this draft block was created before Astor really had strong cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was because the last couple box sets before they wound up the line, each one would have some strong Haster cards in it, and then the Haster got the box, the
Right.
final box, and it was like, oh, here are all the things that will let the faction shine.
I think they were always very weary of Hastor because they were making it the control faction,
Yeah.
and control can take over a game so fast.
Yeah, I think they took that from Magic.
Yeah. And so they were very cautious, and they really kept the power level of Hastor in check to the point of where it was too in check at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it never really seemed to be very competitive. A lot of good choices in this set, or by a lot, I mean, Alternative Historian. Everybody takes Alternative Historian.
Right, exactly. I'm a personal fan of the Seeker of Mysteries, although I only have one card that's going to interact with it at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Padma, my very first pick. I'm going to go with the Midnight Rendezvous, and then, because I know Tyler is drafting Miskatonic at this point in time, I'm moving the Alternative Historian to the front.
And in the meantime, I'm so excited by the whole draft format. I have no idea Ray's doing this.
Right.
It was just like, oh, the thing I want is on top. Okay.
That's great. Do I even have to look at the rest of the pack? I should, just in case. What if there's something cooler behind it? Oh, there's not. Okay, I'm going to take that.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a strategy that people use in drafts a lot, is you move the card that you're pretty sure that the person that you're passing to is going to draft to the front. And if you see them just grab it and set it down, you know you've got them pegged for what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players will shuffle the cards when they receive them and then move them around.
I will bear that in mind for future drafts. But I do love the Devil in the Red Dress. She does yeoman's work. Yo woman's work.
Yo woman's work, yes.
Keeper of the Golden Path, you think?
I think I go with the Keeper of the Golden Path. I'm hesitant on the Migo Surgeon because it gives all Migo and Arcane. That's just going to work against me if my opponent's playing Migo. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I do take the Keeper. Not every choice can have a lot of thought behind it, unfortunately.
Right. I mean, you just gotta keep with the faction mix sometimes.
Exactly. Sometimes you're just drafting faction. I mean, it might end up being a card that you never play. You just always resource.
I had 2 Elder Bindings in my deck. Excellent resource spotter.
I got the High Wizard. I've got another noggin I could go with. Degenerate Serpent Cultist. But because I've kind of started going towards Silver Twilight, I had decided I wanted this whole pack.
Yeah. You were just opting out of the draft after that.
Right. I was going to let everybody pass around me, and I was just going to take everything in here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to pass anything.
All good choices, aside
That's right.
from the
Tyler
two
didn't need
Miskatonics.
another archaeology interns.
No, I totally needed those. I could have used a third.
I passed him one like in the first or second pack.
Mm-hmm.
That was before I knew what he was drafting. But I take the Initiate.
Poor Loyal Initiate.
Poor Loyal Initiate.
That was the rough errata.
It was. And it would have been nice if these cards had been printed after that errata had come out, so that it said Loyal. But
I based on the POD format, I kind of think they were. They just didn't update the files.
quite possibly.
Because all these draft packs are printed on demand, allegedly.
Right.
They might have a couple dozen sitting on a shelf somewhere, but it means they're not updating the images, I think.
Quite possibly. I know some of the other cards, you read them and they've been adjusted, but that one just wasn't.
Mm-hmm. It was very recent, too.
Yes, it was.
It happened over this past summer, and nobody noticed it because it wasn't marked like the others were.
Right.
And that just seems like an obvious choice for
Yeah,
you.
I'm grabbing the Disguise Threat.
Which will turn a non-serpent into a serpent.
Correct. Sacrifice a non-serpent character to put a serpent character from your hand into play.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in a game later on in the draft, I actually get to do that. I drop Padma on my first turn.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's satisfying.
Yeah, it was very satisfying. Didn't do much, but it was satisfying.
Yeah, but it's just demoralizing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yep.
That was a fairly obvious choice. And you want to talk about a card that's great for draft, for going through your deck and finding stuff.
A nice filtering effect.
Yes.
Draw 2, put one on, keep one, put the other on the bottom. Per card that you draw.
Exactly. You have to reveal them both to everybody, so everybody knows what you're drawing, but you get to see 4 cards at the beginning of your turn. It's great.
And again, demoralizing.
Demoralizing, yes. Although very much a location, so very much destroyed by a lot of the support destruction.
True. A lot of blue. Nope, sorry, 1 blue, 1 purple.
Yeah, 1 blue, 1 purple, 1 gold, 1 red. And since I've already been drafting a little bit of Shub, I'm probably gonna grab this Dole Tunnel. Yep.
Tell me about the Dole Tunnel.
The Dole Tunnel can destroy a location support card, I do believe.
Okay, interesting. So that's another location support destruction, like the Ritual of Inferno.
Right. I don't know if it's directly to a location or not.
And then you do grab one of your Seekers of Mysteries. Was that the one? Do you think that one was the one that went around earlier?
Yes, that was the one that went around earlier.
Okay. So now you can discount Padma if necessary.
Padma if necessary, and it's a good one-drop card.
Yep, and then you're thinking about the Migo Surgeon or the Light Side of the Moon. Migo Surgeon's easy choice.
Migo Surgeon's an easy choice, and then Plan B, which I kind of get stuck with.
Yeah. Means you're keeping it away from the Miskatonic player.
That's right.
You're super happy about that Victoria and the Initiate. You're showing off.
Oh, excuse me. Dole Tunnel does not destroy a location. Sorry, I had to look that up real quick. You actually sacrifice it to choose a story card, and until the end of the phase, characters do not exhaust to commit to that story. But it's a location and it's a Dreamlands support card, and so if you have anything that relies on you having to have more Dreamlands support cards than anybody else, it's a good card to have.
Such as versus the Guardian Pillar.
Exactly. There's a couple cards. Guardian Pillar. I know Enchanted Wood is in this. It requires you to have more Dreamland support cards.
Moonbeast Galley, did that come around?
I think I saw Moonbeast Galley go around at one point in time.
So this is a fresh pack we're looking at now.
Yes. And now I'm passing to the other side where I've already determined that I'm going to be passing Syndicate cards. So there I put a Syndicate card on the front and I put one on the back.
Now, who did you put on the front there? Who was that?
That was Henry.
Henry
Knoll.
Henry.
And no. We're just going to call him Henry Knoll today.
Okay, very good. All right.
He didn't actually screw with me that much when I was playing. I did play against him, and he did hurt me, but it wasn't quite as bad as it usually is.
I was much less worried about him when I saw him come out for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
It's like when you...
It's harder to build the deck around him.
Yeah, when the other player has not been able to stack skill reduction effects.
Yeah.
He seems a little more manageable.
Although if he'd gotten the hand of Aphemagmon or whatever...
A Forgamon,
thank you.
Now, here's the Betrayer, by the way. I was sore tempted to choose the Betrayer because at that point in the game, I was pretty well committed to Yogg-Sothoth.
Yes, and I really like the Betrayer because he's got 3 combats, so really all you have to do is get him through the terror struggle. And he readies himself, and he has to commit every turn, so you just got to keep him out of terror, that's all. I'm actually working on building a Yogg-Sothoth agency deck right now that gives him willpower. I end up taking a High Wizard of the Order there, I do believe.
No Lord Jeffrey in this set, just lots of High Wizards.
Yes.
It's like they decided the bounce effect was too cheaply costed, so they went up one.
And there's another Initiate here. I'd passed on one earlier. And I'm looking at the Enchanted Wood. I'm doing lots of hand signals on that one.
The Enchanted Wood, good for subverting terror icons.
Right. And I thought about grabbing the Initiate, but again, no icons. And only one skill, and here I am putting a Syndicate card on top for the player that was drafting Syndicate to my left.
And is that player on your left? Do they know to shuffle before they choose?
Rod does. Rod noticed when I passed Henry Knoll and the pocket watch on the back what I was doing.
So Shrine to Yig, interesting for Serpent decks.
Yep, I've already got some Serpents. Although I didn't. If I had thought about that, I may have taken one of the Shub-Niggurath cards in there because I didn't have the cards that needed Serpent-wise that can change their their terror icons into other things.
Right.
And that's what the Shrine's really good for, is being able to... The cards that can change their icons, you can use the Shrine to give them another icon.
Because that gives every Serpent 2 terror?
1 terror.
1 terror.
Yep.
Okay. Best with Feathered Serpent because it's free.
Exactly.
Oh!
Now, here I've been past the Savio. For those astute observers, you'll have noticed that this is this pack's already been passed around a few times.
Yeah, it was passed through 3 other people? 4?
1, 2, 3 other people. So 4 people. The person who opened it plus 3 other people. And the fact that it got all the way back around.
And I have no blessed memory of even seeing Savio, and it was on top, which means I looked at it and thought about it.
Yep, exactly. And it's just one of those things of it gets passed around. The other thing is that, I mean, there's a chance that you looked at it and thought about it. If Carlo, who was on the other side of you, was doing the same thing I was, putting cards he knew you were going to draft on top, you may have just seen the card you were going to draft and went thunk.
Maybe, but I would have paged through the pack at least because I didn't know that was a thing people did, which
Fair
means
enough.
I'm just ignoring it and looking through the whole pack.
Gotcha. There's another high wizard I just grabbed. There were a lot of high wizards floating around in this
There
draft.
were. I don't know how many of them actually saw play.
I think I had 2 in my deck. I think Toby had 1 in theirs.
Right. It's such a high cost card. Was that another rendezvous?
That was another rendezvous.
Okay.
I ended up with 3 of those.
Mm-hmm. At this point in the draft, we're just so like, yeah, this is what I'm going to choose.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the betrayer again. You passed on him twice.
Yeah, I was torn by it, but I probably look at the tape and see what else was in that pack.
I grabbed him and was like, I'm not letting that go by again.
A solid 3-drop.
And there's an Into the Woods.
You can throw away a blue card. Who cares?
Who cares? Although I was passing to somebody who was playing Agency, and I grabbed a Blackwood File Clerk as my last card.
Mm-hmm.
Which surprisingly made it that far around. I mean, that's a good card. You've got 2 cost, 3 skill, and 1 investigation. If you're playing Agency, that's a strong card.
And there were 2 Agency players, as I recall, in the end.
At least 1.
The Rod to your left, and I think Mark, whom we didn't get to any matches of, was also playing blue and green.
That's right. He was playing blue, green, and red. He was playing a 3-faction as well.
Weren't we all in the end?
No. Rod only did 2-faction. Carlo was only 2-faction as well.
Okay.
And I think Toby may have only been 2-faction.
Toby had 3.
Toby did have 3, okay. I'm going to grab a Burrowing Beneath here. Good support card destruction.
Mm-hmm. Solid all-around play.
Yep.
Much more versatile than the ritual of
the Inferno that I grabbed earlier. And cheaper.
Mm-hmm. That's the crazy thing about the rituals is like it sounds like a great idea, but they made them expensive and slow.
Right. Although the Ritual of the Inferno, there is something to be said about the I know in Magic it's called the rattlesnake theory. You know, you play the ritual on the table, and your opponent's looking at it constantly going, okay, they can pay 1 to destroy a location support card that I could play. So you start hoarding the cards in your hand because you're afraid they're going to get destroyed.
Yeah, the sort of demoralization, this is my threat.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a Harvesting Migo.
That was a Harvesting Migo. And I thought about going with the Ancient Guardian here, but it costs so much more, I decided to go with the Migo instead. And it was a Migo that doesn't grant things to everybody. So
right. Tricky thing about Harvesting Migo is that it ramps, but it requires you to have a dead character.
Exactly.
I find with the 2-drop character, I want to be playing that earlier when I don't necessarily have a dead character.
Right. But at the same time, if it's the only copy I have in my deck, then the chances of me getting it early, slim. So if I get it late or mid, then it works well.
Because you probably have a 2 domain you may not use otherwise.
Exactly.
Another High Wizard.
High Wizard. There's some other good cards in here. I'm actually going to be... I thought about the Elder Binding because it's a strong card. But characters win, and the Brood of Yig is cheaper than the High Wizard. So.
And on theme.
And on theme.
Yeah, I think I wound up with all the Elder Bindings. At least 2 of them. They were always resource fodder. It was like, that's a great idea. Did not apply when it showed up, ever.
Yeah, you never get to use it when you want to.
Like, I need to resource something. I'd rather have a character on the board.
I have determined from watching this video that I'm never going to be a hand model.
I think for certain products, you'd be a great hand model. Gardening tools. Farm machinery.
Farm machinery.
Fish gutting factories.
At least the first couple, there's a chance they need a hand model. I don't know about fish gutting factories. Guardian Pillar, the second Guardian Pillar we saw. It's 2 copies of 1 restricted card we saw. Come around. I grabbed it this time, and I'm kicking myself for not grabbing it the first time through.
And I thank you for it.
I'm sure you do.
I thank you for that Guardian Pillar. I enjoyed using it.
I'm sure you did.
I felt good about it. It played in well in a future game.
What's nice too is the other thing you have to remember is that there's a special story deck for these games, and so you got to take into consideration that. But one of the stories is just destroy all characters, and when you've got a Guardian Pillar on the table and it's no longer a character, and you can destroy all characters. It sets you ahead.
Mm-hmm. That not a character when it counts, it plays in for that and other effects like an unending festivities.
Right. I just grabbed a setting sun there, keeping it night.
Mm-hmm. Focus on the night effects. And that takes away investigation icons?
Yes.
Yes. Also
From
handy.
non-unique characters.
Non-uniques.
Yes. Which actually does come into play in one of the games that I play. I do believe it's the one I play on camera. So
nice. If only we had more cameras, we could get all the matches.
I'd have to like live in the recording studio.
You can't live in the studio. And that was a surgeon, I believe you just grabbed?
Yes.
Yep, the Migo surgeon grants
I'm looking,
Arcane.
yes.
Yep.
And I'm looking at Victoria's protege going, well, I already have Victoria. If I'd have gotten the protege, maybe I would have drafted Hastur off the beginning if I'd have gotten these cards way back when. I'd at least felt better about it instead of a bunch of 3-drops that you're never going to get to play.
Mm-hmm.
Characters win drafts.
3 out of the 4 there are characters, and you just took the cheapest.
And I just took the cheapest and in faction for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't stress enough that characters win drafts. And the fact that I do not win this draft.
And you were notorious for winning drafts, as I recall.
I am very notorious for winning drafts. At the very least, doing really well in them. I have a secret handshake because it was on faction.
Mm-hmm.
And these last 2 cards are pretty inconsequential. If you don't already have, what you're doing by the last 2 cards that are going to be drafted, so you don't know what you're going to be doing.
Quick sum up. What are your 3 key factions?
So my 3 key factions are, in order, Cthulhu, Shub-Niggurath, and then Silver Twilights.
Okay.
I'll grab a Mass Hysteria here instead of grabbing a Silver Twilight.
So Silver Twilight is a distinct 3rd place.
Distinct 3rd place, yes. I'm seeing a lot of it go around. I'll start drafting it and just didn't see much of it.
All right, so this has been the draft. We want to thank everybody for watching. Stick around. You're going to get to see Ray build his deck, and then we'll have matches of what happens in the forthcoming episodes of Decked. Ray, we'll see you next time.
All right, see you next time, Tyler.